of inauguration.
This work begins now. The people of Nigeria are looking to this administration for results, and they expect them quickly.
Financial autonomy of state houses of assembly tops deliberations as speakers hold conference in Lagos.
Operatives of Nigeria police rearrest notorious kidnap kingpin Hamisu Bala Wadume in Kano.
On Good Morning Nigeria today, we shall discuss the attack on Senator Ike Ekweremadu, plus inauguration of the Federal Executive Council.
August 17, 2019 will no doubt remain memorable in the minds of many Nigerians, home and abroad, as one of the dark days in the history of our country.
Well, the reason obviously is not far-fetched, Rhoda, and it was on that day that some members of the proscribed indigenous peoples of Biafra attacked former Deputy Senate President Ike Ekweremadu at the second annual Igbo Cultural Festival, which was taking place in Nuremberg in Germany.
Now, this ugly development attracted condemnation from different quarters, including political leaders and other men of goodwill within and outside the shores of Nigeria.
Well, the incident, of course, has thrown up a number of questions, particularly with regard to our socio-cultural tradition, including respect for senior citizens and leaders, as well as, of course, guests who are invited to certain ceremonies.
And that's a big question because many Nigerians, or Nigerians generally, we are all over the world known to be resilient, respectful to elders, especially no matter the provocation, you know, and we're also very, very, very hospitable, you know, to people, especially when you have invited guests. That's one thing we're known for in Nigeria. You see us in our best character. You know, we behave better when we have visitors, either in our homes or we're outside among visitors. So
one question to ask is what went wrong in Nuremberg last weekend to warrant the assault on the distinguished Senator Ike Ekweremadu, who was until recently the Deputy Senate President? Could the attackers have been under any influence, or were they sponsored by some other persons to carry out the act? And how would other nationals, of course, take this with regard to our national reputation? And are we giving room for others to, as it were, begin to look down on us on account of what transpired in faraway Germany? And what should be done going forward to prevent a reoccurrence in the future, considering that you have a number of Nigerian organizations in different parts of the world? So those are issues, of course, that we shall be taking a look at in one of our topics for conversation on Good Morning Nigeria today. My name is Kingsley Osadolo. I'd like to thank you for tuning in on the program.
I'm Rhoda Anonaman. It's always a pleasure to have you join us. We're live on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. We're broadcasting live from our studios here in Abuja, Nigeria. Also, we shall discuss the inauguration of the Federal Executive Council, which is coming up in just a few hours.
Well, as always, we have our complimentary segments of the program, and these include newspaper review, business, and others. But let's begin the news highlights this morning with our colleague, Musbah Udan-Wahab. Good morning, Musbah.
Very good morning, Kingsley. Welcome. Let's take up the news. This morning, President Muhammadu Buhari expresses absolute confidence in the capacity and patriotic commitment of the ministers designate to not only deliver a better Nigeria, but also ensure a brighter future for all. This was at the closing of a two-day presidential retreat for the appointees aimed at building a stronger platform for synergy and teamwork.
Public service is not easy work, and at times it can be thankless. I am therefore charging you all to seize this opportunity to serve as an honor. to give you our best to deliver on this mandate for a more prosperous Nigeria, not for some, but for all Nigerians.
Meanwhile, the President has approved the replacement for heads of federal government agencies that were recently appointed as ministers. Senator Bashir Garba Mohammed has been appointed Federal Commissioner, National Commission for Refugees, Migrants and Internally Displaced Persons. He replaces Sadia Umar Farouk. Dr. Chioma Heji Keme has been appointed Executive Secretary, Pension Transitional Arrangement Directorate, replacing Sharon Ikezo, while Kashifu Inua Abdullahi is now Director General, CEO, National Information Technology Development Agency, NITDA. For Executive Commissioner, Stakeholder Management, Nigerian Communications Commission, NCC, President Buhari has forwarded Adeleke Moronfolo Adewolu's name to the Senate for confirmation as replacement for Sunday Akandari. From the judiciary, Supreme Court strikes out Atiku's appeal. The Supreme Court has struck out an appeal by the presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party, PDP, Atiku Abubakar, on the party's inability to reply the objection of the APC at the Presidential Election Petition Court. This appeal comes from APC's challenge of the competence of the PDP's petition at the tribunal. The five-man panel of Supreme Court justices led by Justice Datijo Mohammed ruled that Atiku's reply was filed out of time. Election stakeholders have met in Abuja for the presentation of a report of a monitoring and evaluation situation room, which is a compilation of evidence materials for the 2019 presidential and senatorial elections by the Presidential Support Committee. Vice President Yemi Osinbajo, in a message, says the All Progressives Congress, APC, is putting in place measures to improve the living conditions of Nigerians and boost infrastructural development in the country.
Time judgment is pronounced and the opposition party says this is not right. We have something to present and say by what we have presented, these are facts in the field across the states.
And in Lagos, speakers of state houses of assembly have held a conference with a focus on how to attain financial autonomy by the legislative arm of government in states. Deputy Speaker, House of Representatives Ahmed Idris Wase at the opening urged the speakers to save the local government system from imminent collapse.
The local government is the most crucial tier of government. And I believe together we'll put our hands together on deck to ensure we'll take them out the shackles.
The operatives of the Nigeria police have rearrested the notorious kidnap kingpin Hamisu Bala Wadume. He was rearrested in the late hours on Monday in his hideout at Layim Me Alo Hautoro area of Kano State. The United States President's emergency plan for AIDS relief and U.S. Centers for Disease Control, U.S. Department of Defense and U.S. Agency for International Development, USAID, have pledged to support Nigeria in implementing an antiretroviral treatment ART surge program in Rivers State to identify and provide treatment to approximately 180,000 people living with HIV. The United States ambassador to Nigeria's Stuart Simonton led U.S. delegation on a courtesy visit to Rivers State to advocate for the elimination of user fees for all people living with HIV and antenatal care charges for pregnant women living with the virus. Rivers State Governor Nyesom Wike commended the United States government for allocating $75 million for the treatment of HIV control activities in Nigeria. Ambassador Seminti thanked Governor Nyesom Wike for announcing his intent to eliminate use of fee for persons living with HIV. About the news beats on Good Morning Nigeria this morning. Join us for more in the course of the day and afternoon. The ministers designate are scheduled for inauguration today. That will be the discussion on the table this morning. Join Kisley and Rhoda after this timeout.
Can I see your particulars, sir?
Officer, my particulars no dey here.
In that case, you'll have to come with me to the police station.
Officer, which levels? Where I for find you something make you take arrange your weekend.
What? Offense number 1, driving without particulars. Offense number 2, trying to bribe an officer of the law.
I won't harass Nigerians or take bribe. Change begins with me.
This message is brought to you by the National Orientation Agency in conjunction with the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
To the outer framers, the hat tippers, the turtleneckers, the fringe goers, you don't need to hide anymore. Try Dettol Even Tone. It cleans and helps to reduce the appearance of blemishes caused by oil, dirt and germs, giving your skin a healthy feel for an even better you. Dettol, be 100% sure.
All right, you're welcome back. And if you've just joined us, you're watching Good Morning Nigeria. Now to take our business news. Debt Management Office releases debt profile of Nigeria's geopolitical zones. Let's join Kunle Adeyeye for more details on this and other stories trending in the world of business.
Data from the Debt Management Office shows that 6 geopolitical zones of the country were exposed to a total domestic debt of 3.97 trillion naira as of March 31. The Southwest has more domestic debt than other regions of the country, with a debt of 1.04 trillion naira. The Southeast states owe 303 billion naira. The South-South region has a domestic debt burden of 949.4 billion naira, accounting for 23.91% of the country's sub-national domestic debt. The North-Central region, comprising Kwara, Kogi, Nasarawa, Niger, Plateau and Benue states, as well as the Federal Capital Territory, has a domestic debt burden of 648.63 billion naira, accounting for 16.34% of the country's subnational domestic debt. And the equities market on Tuesday closed on a negative note as Nigeria's stock exchange all-share index depreciated by minus 0.21% to close at 27,058.62 points as against plus 0.71% appreciation recorded previously. With business news, I'm Kunle Adeyeye.
All right, thank you very much, Kunle, there for the business package and Good Morning Nigeria. Next for us on the program, we'll take a look at the front pages of some of today's newspapers.
As always, to give more insight into our review this morning is our regular newspaper reviewer, Bayo Atoibi. Bayo, good morning.
Good morning, Rhoda. Good morning, Kinsley.
Yeah, Bayo,
good morning, Nigeria.
That's right. We'll take a look at the front pages of the Punch and the Daily Trust this morning. Their lead stories are similar. They're talking about the rearrest of Wadume. According to the Punch, coming with a kicker, Taraba slain policeman, soldiers shot cops and freed me, Wadume confesses. With a rider, kidnap kingpin's arrest won't stop our probe. That's according to the defense headquarters. And you can see his photograph there, along with the members of the police special team that smoked him out of his hideout in Kano. That headline, it's also similar, as I said earlier, to what is the lead story for the Daily Trust newspaper. The Daily Trust newspaper captures it this way. Soldiers aided my escape from police, Wadume says, with two riders, how he was arrested inside Plaza in Kano, associate and others nabbed in Abuja and Taraba. Again, you have his photograph there. This time it's in handcuffs and also perhaps leg chains. His kaftan doesn't quite show that. So other stories on the front page of Daily Trust very quickly. I take those ones. Below the nameplate of the paper, 20 governors yet to form cabinet as Buhari swears in ministers today. That's page 7. Flood kills 6 and displaces over 600 in Jigawa. That's page 4. FRS lists Obasanjo firms and others among 1,901 tax defaulters. That's page 16. And right at the foot of the front page of the Daily Trust newspaper, gunmen attack convoy of Nasarawa deputy governor, killed 5 policemen. It's a different account of that story regardless. Now, INEC server, Supreme Court dismisses PDP and Atiku's appeal. That's page 3. And on page 5, Buhari replaces heads of agencies who have been appointed ministers.
All right, let's quickly take a look at the blueprint this morning. Just below just beside the nameplate there, you'll see 3 Benue monarchs suspended over Katsina Allah killings, and that's on page 16. Unilori Malls Community TV broadcasting. Flood kills pregnant woman, 5 others in Jigawa is also a story that is trending on the blueprint this morning. And the lead story is retreat ends. Who gets what as Buhari swears in ministers? Retreat ends. Who gets what as Buhari ends swears in ministers is the lead story for the Punch this morning. That's the big story. And then with some riders there and some of the pictures of ministers designate, Agba or Oga may head petroleum. Information awaits Lai Okeamu, Magashin line for defense, and Hamed may return to finance. That's on page 6. And then if you come down, you also have the picture story of the story that Kingsley read. That is the rearrest of Wadume there, being paraded at the force headquarters in Abuja yesterday. Now let's go down to the foot of the paper. It says, why Atiku PDP lost at the court and no cause for alarm, says ex-VP. That's on page 5. Then if you come down also on the foot of the paper, it says Taraba Kingpin Wadume arrested. Fake admission, 200 Imo University students to miss graduation. That's on page 16. All right, but let's begin with the rearrest of the kidnap Kingpin Wadume.
Yes, indeed. Operatives of the Inspector General of Police response team rearrested Wadume, described as notorious kingpin in Kano on late Tuesday evening. He was arrested as Laime Alo in Hotoro quarters of Kano State. The police had been on his trail since the 6th of August after the gruesome murder of 3 policemen, 2 civilians and 5 other persons that were injured. The chairman of APGA at Ibi and 7 other persons, including an Islamic cleric, have also been arrested. They actually had visited the head of IRT trying to plead for Wadume, and the party chairman is said to be a very close friend of the Wadume man. Since the attempted arrest of Wadume on 6th of August, which was bungled by rescuers, there has been no single kidnap along Ukari Takum Road. That speaks volumes. Absolutely. Since he has been arrested, kidnapping in that axis has stopped. Mm-hmm. So apparently they have needed the kidnapping there in the boat. On the other unfortunate story is the 3 policemen were killed yesterday in the convoy of the deputy governor of Nasarawa State. The deputy governor was in his way to Abuja on a national assignment. And just when they got very close to Akanga, they run into an armed robbery and they fired at the convoy before they escaped. Unfortunately, 3 of the police officers and the driver were killed. The bodies have been taken to Dalhatu Araf Specialist Hospital in Lafia. The Commissioner of Police, Bole Alonge, has already visited the scene, and they are pursuing investigative purposes to ensure that the criminals are apprehended. Meanwhile, ministers designate, you remember, got set at the Senate during the screening. They also get to their marks after a 2-day presidential screening. They are expected to hit the ground running today if they are sworn in and allocated portfolios. President Muhammadu Buhari challenged them at the conclusion yesterday and said, I have no doubt in the individual capacity and collective patriotism commitment of the ministers designate. He said, to deliver a better Nigeria for us, our children, and a brighter future for all of us all. He enjoined them to submit 2 directives he gave. Submit all issues for attention or meeting requests through the office of the Chief of Staff, while all Federal Executive Council matters are to be submitted through the Cabinet Office of the Secretary to the Government of the Federation. He also challenged them that public service at times can be tactless, and nevertheless, he enjoined ministers designate to see the opportunity to serve as an honor, to give their best, to deliver their mandate for the prosperity of Nigeria. And therefore, if you were one of them, certainly you will have an intrusion and you will be challenged to lift 100 million Nigerians out of poverty is the task that must be done.
But there was a story that was trending yesterday, and it's at the foot of the Nigerian pilots, and the EFCC has denied that. It says EFCC denies raiding ex-Governor Ambode's house. That was a story that was trending from the early hours of yesterday up until it was late.
Yes, there were reports that his home in Lagos and under Atekpe had been raided.
Yeah.
But the EFCC says they are not the one responsible for that. Okay. It is now left for whoever was responsible for raiding the home to be identified. But you know, some of these stories, you have to be very careful on the social media. Most of the time, they are just fleeting tales.
But by this one, there were videos actually circulating. But like just as you said, whether they were from the EFCC, where they were from is what we don't know. Okay. All right, but let's quickly...
I'm just wondering, before the Wadume story.
Yes.
I think that this is a big opportunity to further unravel the network of kidnapping in the country. Okay. And because kidnapping is now on an industrial scale.
Yes.
And as you rightly observed, since the initial arrest of Wadume, and up to this moment, there appears to be no further incident of kidnapping along the Wukari axis. That tells you that, you know, a kingpin, of course, has been taken down. But what then do you do with the network that has been established? Some of his gang members, according to the reports, have also been arrested in different locations.
Yes.
And he's also said to own properties in different locations as well. And the story of the involvement of some officials of the security agencies, the soldiers, and allegedly some policemen, this is very serious. I think that the authorities must regard this as an opportunity to get to the root of the matter and then to deal with those issues decisively, of course, according to due process, according to the law. Wadume is said to own houses in different locations. Of course, as you very well know, some states already have laws, you know, compulsory acquisition of such houses or the demolition of those houses. Plus, of course, now you also have a number of counts when charges have been drafted for offenses of this nature. The murder of 3 policemen who were on official duty. Yes. Assuming they were not even on official duty, of course, you will have issues for the assailants, you know, to account for. So there are service offenses involved here. There are also criminal offenses involved here. Nigerians cannot be at the mercy, as it were, of kidnappers who appear to be operating an industry actively supported, as it were now, by some outlaws who are also in the security services.
Yes, obviously, kidnapping had turned out to be the most profitable adventure in recent times. And now that you also, not only the Wukari-Takum axis, Kaduna-Abuja Expressway. For a long time now, there have not been any incidences of kidnapping any longer. If there are any at all, there will be only flash incidences. And that is to say that they have been able to make them in the ball. But I think the security agencies must trace everyone along that network, because that of the Kaduna-Abuja axis is the most dangerous, because it spreads through Niger State up to Katsina and has a link with the banditry that was going on in the northwest.
Yeah, we must again give kudos to the intelligence response team of the Inspector General's office. It was set up some years ago. It's always been very active, and you know, we have cases like this to crack, and the boys are always out there, and they deliver. You recall, you stated that unfortunately some of those officers who were killed in Taraba were amongst those who secured the rescue of the district head of Daura.
Yes.
And they were also involved in busting some other kidnap cases.
Including Evans.
That's right.
Yeah. All right, so let's quickly take a look at the Nigerian pilot. On the Nigerian pilot, same stories trending on some other papers. Buhari replaces heads of government agencies as ministers get portfolios today. Northern governors shun conference on insecurity. That's on page 11. And of course, the big story on the Nigerian pilot today: Nigerians poor and shows for a better life, says Buhari. That's on page 8 of the Nigerian pilot. Let's quickly go down to the foot of the paper. Ruga shouldn't be a national issue, says Ganduje. That's the governor of Kano State. That's on page 8. And a couple of other stories just below there. It says deputy governor's impeachment. Okay, but I'd like to speak to this much later. Assembly directs CJ to set up panel. Edo Bauchi Assembly crisis. Reps won't allow law order breakdown. That's on page 6. And federal government petitions Ukraine over death of Nigerian doctor. That was a story that was trending the upper week. That's on page 11. Good to know that.
Okay. From the Punch newspaper, above the nameplate and 2 earpieces there beside the name flag. Let's just take those headlines. Banks suffer 100 billion naira bad loans in power sector. That's page 23. And 2 earpieces. Boko Haram crisis could last 15 more years. That's attributed to former President Olusegun Obasanjo. And then, of course, we already talked about the lead story with regard to the rearrest of Wadume. And below the 2 photographs there on the front page, Niger SDP governorship candidate freed after 4 million naira ransom. That is after the photographs on the front page there, page 8. Repentant bandits helping to tackle killings. That's attributed to Batawale, who is governor of Zamfara, page 10. Kogi CJ asked to raise Achuba's impeachment panel, page 11. Suspended Buhari's aide, that's Oko Bono Obla, that sues ICPC and Sean's agency summons. And SARS operatives killed disarmed suspects in Lagos. And UN laments attacks on 8 workers in the northeast. Page 10. Bio.
Yes, the issue of Kogi State House of Assembly. The Assembly yesterday passed a resolution to begin the process of impeachment of the Deputy Governor Simon Achuba. The resolution was listed in this, was raised by the majority leader in the House, and the Chief Judge of Kogi State is asked to constitute a 7-man panel to investigate allegation of misconduct. Majority Leader Adekunle Bello Balogun says it is in line with Section 88(3) of the Constitution. 19 members of the House, 2 more than the 17 required, supported the motion. The Speaker, Matthew Kolaole, has directed the Chief Judge of Kogi State, Nasir Ajana, to set up the committee. Meanwhile, members of the proscribed Islamic movement of Nigeria are reported to be causing disquiet in local communities in the Federal Capital Territory. One comrade, Yunus Ayusu, says that the members of the Shiite group are hiding in remote villages of the FCT, and they use those places as their hideouts and are also causing serious concern. The presence is becoming unbearable. They are allegedly indulged in physical assault of natives, including raping of women, alleged raping of women. He cited an instance last week when a Shiite member allegedly chopped off the fingers of a villager at Guzape, and he said that government should desist from treating the IMN members with kid gloves because the communities are no longer going to be tolerant of the harassment of these people who are settling among them and causing disquiet.
All right, let me quickly, I'd like to I'll cut you there. I'll quickly like to take our editorial for today. We're out of time for the newspaper review segment. We're discussing 2 items this morning. Our editorial this morning is from the Voice of the Nation. It's on a federal government's plan to create 40,000 jobs. It says the federal government plans to utilize the last tranche of its 175 million US dollar loan supported by the African Development Bank to create 40,000 jobs. It says this plan cannot be faltered. Agriculture and its entirety chain is one good sector which government at all levels can use not only to wean the economy from its overdependence on crude oil, but also solve youth unemployment, reduce poverty and create wealth. So the intention is to use this last tranche of the money on job creation through agriculture.
Well, I think the editorial has happened on the fact that the government has set itself a target of creating 100 million jobs. Yeah. And one of the areas for which it is most certain that that could be done is agriculture. And therefore, with the support from the African Development Bank, I think the government is set, if it pursues its program, particularly that of diversifying the economy away from oil and happen on agriculture. However, emphasis must also have to be put on the state government for every state to be involved in this, particularly in the agricultural produce they have the best strength to help support the economy with.
Bayo, we would like to thank you for being around. One story, I'm sure that it will continue to resonate. 20 state governors are yet to form their cabinet. And you just ask yourself, what's happening to our constitution? Bayo?
100 days after inauguration.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for being around.
Thank you too.
So we hope to see you tomorrow. All right, it's Good Morning Nigeria live on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. We'll take a short break now. When we return, we'll get ahead with our items for discussion.